GPT 5.2 is here, and yes, it is an incredible model. OpenAI published so much information about it. We got a ton of benchmarks. We have a bunch of demos that I'm going to show you, so let's get right into it. But first, Flavio Adamo did his famous bouncy balls in a hexagon test, and he really took it to another level. Look at this. We now have a 3D realistic looking hexagon, 3D balls. They bounce off of each other. The physics look real. The lighting looks real. When they hit each other, they brighten up for a moment. It is incredibly impressive. Here's a test that Ethan Mollick put together. Create a visually interesting shader that can run in Twiggle.app, make it like an infinite city of neo-Gothic towers partially drowned in a stormy ocean with large waves. Single shot. Look at this. Extremely impressive. The water physics looks real, although it looks low polygon, but that's okay. The buildings look incredible, and yes, it is infinite. And of course, I know you all want to see what are the benchmarks and how does it compare to the other frontier models. So SweBench Pro, a big 5% jump from 5.1 to 5.2, and now GPT 5.2 thinking is state of the art. It is the best model on the planet for the SweBench Pro benchmark. We have GPQA Diamond, which is a science benchmark with no tools. 92.4%. That is a 4% bump from 5.1 thinking. And yes, once again, state of the art. We have a new 100% aced it Amy 2025 benchmark. Completely aced it, got every single question right. Amy 2025 is a math competition. Very difficult math problems, and 5.2 aced it. That's compared to 95% with Gemini 3 Pro and 92.8 with Claude Opus 4.5. Now here is the big one. Here is the surprising one. Arc AGI 2. It went from 17% on 5.1 thinking to 52.9%. That is a stunning increase and is by far state of the art for Arc AGI 2. And if you're not familiar with that benchmark, it is a benchmark from our friends at ArcPrize and tests the model's ability to learn and generalize. Probably the truest definition of AGI. And even ArcPrize posted about it. Look at this. We verified GPT 5.2 Pro High is state of the art for Arc AGI 2, scoring 54.2% at $15.72 per task. That is extremely cost efficient. And what's even more impressive is the efficiency improvement as compared to just a year ago. Listen to this. A year ago, we verified a preview of an unreleased version of O3 High that scored 88% at an estimated cost of $4,500 per task. Today, we verified GPT 5.2 Pro X High, 90.5, so a better score at $11 per task. That is down from $4,500 per task. That is a 390x efficiency improvement. It is not just about getting the best score. It is also about efficiency per token. And yes, both Arc AGI 1 and Arc AGI 2 for GPT 5.2 thinking, both state of the art as compared to the other frontier models, Opus 4.5 and Gemini 3 Pro. Last, GDP Val, which tests real world knowledge task evaluations. And once again, 5.2 is dominating at a 70.9% as compared to second place, Opus 4.5 at 59.6%. Incredibly impressive scores. And by the way, I've started including some mentions of prediction markets like Kalshi and Polymarket in my videos. Let me know if you like those in the comments below. I find them pretty interesting. So this prediction says which AI company will have the best coding model on January 1st, 2026. And if we look all the way up until about December 5th or 6th, Anthropic was by far in the lead, and then all of a sudden it switched. So definitely seems like someone knows something. But as of right now, there's an 86% chance that OpenAI will have the best coding model on January 1st, 2026. And we're doing a major giveaway. Let me tell you about it. We just launched the High Taste AI bundle with Zapier, GitHub, Microsoft Copilot, Windsurf, Replit, Crew AI, Gemini, and so many more. There are over $15,000 in total prizes up for grabs. All you need to do is go sign up for our newsletter, share it with your friends, and the more referrals that you get, the higher your chances of winning. The grand prize winner wins over $12,000 in credits, seats, and pro plans from all the companies that I mentioned. We're going to choose a winner on December 26th, so make sure you enter. Links down below. Now, to the blog post released by OpenAI for GPT 5.2. They are putting a lot of emphasis on GPT 5.2 being incredibly good and a big improvement from 5.1 on real-world tasks, economically valuable tasks. All right, so who gets it and when? Well, 5.2 is available right away for paid users. That includes the instant, the thinking, and the pro versions of 5.2 for all paid accounts. Let me show you some examples of economically valuable work that GPT 5.2 is able to do much better than 5.1. First, Workforce Planner. The prompt: create a workforce planning model, headcount, hiring plan, attrition, and budget impact, include engineering, marketing, legal, and sales departments. On the left, this is 5.1 thinking. And as you can see, it is a very basic looking Excel, which actually, to be fair, is fine. You don't really need it to be very pretty. It just needs to have the right data. But if you look at the right side, it was able to format the Excel in a much more easily readable way. Here's a cap table management Excel document. On the left, we have 5.1 thinking. On the right, we have 5.2 thinking. And the interesting thing to note is 5.1 incorrectly calculated seed, Series A and Series B liquidation preferences. By the way, these are very sophisticated spreadsheets and specifically formulas. 5.1 incorrectly calculated seed, Series A and Series B liquidation preferences and left majority of those rows blank, leading to an incorrect final equity payout calculation. This is a big deal. Being able to trust an AI model to create these cap tables is extremely valuable, but only if they get it right. The cost of getting it wrong is enormous, potentially millions and millions of dollars, potentially billions of dollars. And obviously a human is ultimately going to need to review this and sign off on it, but it is still incredibly important to get it right. And GPT 5.2 gets it all right. Here's another example. You are a project manager at a UK-based tech startup called BridgeMind. BridgeMind successfully obtained grant funding from a UK-based organization that supports the development of AI tools to help local businesses. This website provides some background information, so I won't read the whole thing, but it basically gives it a bunch of information and asks it to create a report. And so what we see on the left side here, this is one of the slides, the report. On the right side, as you can tell, much more beautiful, much more easily readable. And so it definitely did a much better job. Now I'm looking right here, and this is a tiny minor gripe, but you can see that we have this rounded edge right here. But for the header, we have this squared off and they're overlapping. Very minor, very subtle visual detail that it got wrong. Next, let me show you maybe one of the most impressive demos I've seen to date for a coding prompt. First, here's the prompt. Create a single page app in a single HTML file with the following requirements: name, ocean wave simulation, goal, display realistic animated waves, features, change wind speed, wave height, lighting. The UI should be calming and realistic. And look at that. It looks phenomenal. I don't really understand why it looks like you're looking through a porthole or something, but that's fine. But if we change the wind speed, we can see if we turn it all the way down, it's very calm waves. And of course, if we turn it all the way up, we have much more turbulent waves. We can also change the wave height just like so. So now we have really big waves, and then all of a sudden we can move it down to the bottom and have much smaller waves. Let's turn the wind speed all the way up. This is the calmest ocean you can possibly think of. And then, of course, on the other side, there we go. And you can also change the lighting like so. And GPT 5.2 also hallucinates less than 5.1. It's a minor improvement, but still very meaningful. Any squashing of hallucinations is definitely worth noting. GPT 5.1 thinking with at least one error in its response, we'll call those hallucinations. GPT 5.2 thinking 6.2%, a very welcomed improvement. It also sets a new standard in long context reasoning. So we get 256K tokens, just like we did in 5.1 in previous models. So no big expansion of the context window there, but what it can actually do with the context window has greatly improved. Look at this. So as we see, this is 5.1 thinking, and this is the MRCRV2 benchmark with 4 needles, very similar to the needle in the haystack test. And as we can see, for 5.1 thinking, it drops all the way down to 42% at 256K tokens, whereas nearly perfect at 98% for 256K tokens with 4 needles in the haystack. Now, when we have 8 needles, it dropped off a little bit more, coming down to 70% as compared to 30% for 5.1. It's also much better at visual reasoning, which is a very important feature, something that I use all the time. It cuts error rates roughly in half on chart reasoning and software interface understanding. Here's the Charkive reasoning scientific figure questions benchmark, and 5.1 thinking, 80%, 5.2 thinking, 88%. So a nice improvement there. And a quick thanks to Dell Technologies for sponsoring this portion of the video. Dell Technologies has a family of incredible laptops called the Dell Pro Max featuring NVIDIA RTX Pro Blackwell chips, which are portable AI workhorses. It comes in 14 and 16-inch screen sizes and up to 32 gigabytes of GPU memory, perfect for on-the-go AI workloads. Check them out, link in the description below. And of course, for computer use, we needed to be able to understand what's on the screen, specifically user interfaces, to know where the buttons are, how to click them, and 5.2 is much improved over 5.1. So for the ScreenSpot Pro GUI screenshot understanding, 64% for 5.1 thinking and 86% for 5.2. And here's another example at just how good it is at visual reasoning. Here's a picture of a motherboard. 5.1, it was asked to identify all the different elements of it. And as you can see, not very good, not accurate on the actual boxing, and only identified 4 elements of it, versus 5.2 really did much better, identified many more ports and chips and RAM, and boxed it much more accurately. And for tool use, we also saw a great improvement. Here's Tau 2 bench for telecom use cases. This is customer support, nearly perfect, 98.7 for 5.2 thinking, versus here's 5.1 thinking, 47%, double, literally double. And so what that actually means is 5.2 is much better at tool calling and long chains of tool calling. Here's an example. My flight from Paris to New York was delayed and I missed my connection to Austin. My check bag is also missing and I need to spend the night in New York. I also require a special front row seat for medical reasons. Can you help me? 5.1, it was only able to do tool calling over a handful of different iterations, versus 5.2, look how many more it was able to do. It is also much better at mental health evaluations, which is equally as important as everything else we're discussing. When people use these models, we need to know that they are safe while using them. So let's talk about pricing. It is more expensive, unfortunately. I thought a version bump would be the same price, but it isn't. You do get a lot more for it, but still, it is a pretty meaningful price increase. So GPT 5.1 per million input tokens, $1.25 versus $1.75 for 5.2. That is a big increase. And $10 per output for 5.1 versus $14 per million output for 5.2. And last, LM Arena published some preliminary results. And GPT 5.2 High is coming in at an ELO score of 1486, putting it at number 2 overall, coming in just under Opus 4.5, which is still the number 1 coding model in the world, according to LM Arena. So I'll drop a link to this blog post down below. They did put out a ton of different benchmarks. I would have liked if they included the other companies' frontier models in all of these different charts for the benchmarks, but hopefully they do that next time. Box put out some nice enterprise benchmarks. No, they're not sponsoring this video, but I just find this to be valuable, so let me show it to you. What we're seeing here is time to first token for Box AI Enterprise Eval. And so lower is better. And what we're seeing here is a drastic decrease from 5 to 5.1 to 5.2 across the board. Long document complex extraction, analytical query, and multi-turn query. Then we're seeing accuracy scores for those enterprise use cases. And once again, 59 to 66. And as you can see, pretty much across the board, a very nice improvement. Once again, I would have liked to see how it compares to other frontier models in the same chart, but maybe next time. So that's it for today. It seems like pre-training is not slowing down. We have not hit a wall. Very excited to see these big improvements to the GPT-5 series of models. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.